Okay, so here's where we're at. Got all that done, etc. Now, as you can see, build platform is on, excuse me, and done. Now we get to assemble the electronics board. So let's make a space. Let's just get these two pieces on here out the way. Okay, let's lift this down out the way. It's starting to get a bit heavy. Okay, so we need a cover, one piece, a board holder, another piece, a fan already on, controller board, plastic spaces, 4 by 7.5, 12 M3 nuts, so it's M3 by 20 screws, 4 M3 by 45s. These are the really long ones that I've been waiting to wonder what they were for. 4 of those. 3 T-nuts, which means we'll need 3 M5 screws to go with them. Or M4 screws, should I say. And what else do we need? I think that's everything. So let's take the plastic off of this time. Yes, we'll leave the paper there for that side of it. So let's have a look here. According to this, we have this sitting here. Let me just zoom in the big camera a bit. So we have our base, which is right here. We've got, we'll put the T-nuts in a moment. So the 4 big screws by the look of it go from the top down, so we have to go through this. Not sure if you'd want to really be screwing this together without all the wires already in. And I don't know if you can see that. So you put that there, that's fine. But we need a massive spacer here in order to do that. And these certainly don't cut it. Maybe we stack them up from the other side of the board. Let's work from the bottom instead of the top. So we come in, we have some little thin spacers. Yeah, they're doubling up on them. Okay, that's fair enough. Helps if I look further down in the diagrams, doesn't it? So coming from the bottom, small spacer, board, small spacer, big spacer, big spacer. So 1, 2, make sure I'm still in view here. 3, 4, plop it down. So 1, 2, 3, 4 small spacers. Now we're going to put this on. That goes the side of the 2, so we want to make sure the LCD display things go on the side of the 2 tabs there. So that's this way around. Okay, now we want 1, 2, 3, 4 more small spacers. And then double large spacers. Then a nut. So that's nicely going to hold all this together without having this on. Put this on too early, you're not going to get it wired up, so this allows us to mount it and everything else and not have to screw it all up. Just trying this for size because the pictures are misleading a little bit. Yeah, that is actually, there's a screw inside, even with that, that's actually hitting the, so I can zoom in and show you. So we got the screw off the fan is actually touching the top of a capacitor right in there. I have to see if there's a way to fix that. Not sure. We've got a whole nother set of spacers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more. I don't know if we actually use any more. Oh yeah, we use 4 for the LCD display. So that leaves us 3. I don't think there are any more anywhere. So that's 4 for the display. What can I do with this? My thought is that the little thin spacers might be enough doubled up to be equivalent to one of the bigger ones. Don't need much. Yeah, they're the same. So if I use that and then 1, 2, guess I got to do this twice. I think that might actually do it. And leaves me 1 spacer. Hopefully I don't need that. See if this fits without shorting anything now. Perfect. Lots of clearance, lots of height. Looks a bit ugly, but it will do. So let's just screw that down tight a little bit. Okay, so we can leave this fan lid off until we're ready. Okay, I'm going to drag up the main unit again in a moment, but let's just put that aside and we'll, I think, assemble the LCD display as well. So I need that. I need 3 more T-nuts, so they're going to have 3. There's 3 for the other one. And screws. There's the screws. We need the 4 plastic washers. There are 4 of those. And we're going to need some shorter, thin screws, but they're not listed on the top there by the look. Nope, they're not. And that's how it all goes together. So let's take the paper off of here, and the other side, there's our light panel. Our LCD display already has the knob attached to it, so that's going to just go through. Let's have a look there. maybe from that side. There you go, that's better. Let's take the paper off the display. So there we have what we need. We're going to put screws through from the front. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's just lay that on the table. 4 spaces. 1 display. Okay, nuts on the back. Tighten that up. So there is our display. Now we've got to put some T-nuts in here. So 1, 2. Again, just rotate these in the corner. It's longer than we could choose to mount it somewhere else. A little tight. So 3 on there. We have to put 3 on here as well. 1. Hello. Get visited by my cat. 2 and that was a little tight. 3. So that's that ready to go. Oh, she's running away. Doesn't want to go on camera. Do you? Yeah? You coming up? No? Alright. Just move these out the way a second. Lift up the printer. Okay. Need to zoom out again. At least part way. So where do we put this? Let's have a look. There's the front. There's the front of the printer. Just turning it around. So the front of the printer is over this side here, and it goes on that corner. So let's just move it to where it can be seen. Adjust the camera angle. So we need to mount it on this corner here by the look of it, which is this is the front of the printer right here. So this is the front side, so we want it there according to everything I can see, like this. So 1 up, 1 down. Let's just put that better view. And okay, so that would be the display right there. And the control panel will go right there with the USB pointing up according to that. Yep, according to that, the USB is pointing up and the display connectors are to the front. So right there. So that needs to go up, up, and yeah, slightly further to the back, okay. So like that, right there, screw those in. go. That's ready for... And there's a little bit of a gap before the bed hits the controller, so that's fine. So the next thing will probably be to put the power supply in, according to this, and it goes at the back where I am. So let's just rotate this. So the power supply is going to be going right here, according to that anyway. Let's have a look. So it's unit down, back, right. Have I done everything else? Yes. 3 nuts, 3 T-slit nuts and 3 regular nuts. Okay, 1, 2, 3 of those, 3 screws, and a power supply. Alrighty. So this is going to go on the back, presumably this way, because, well, that's how it fits. So let's get these T-nuts on, and the cable goes that way for nice neat wiring. One, 2, 3. Let's get those that way, vertical, so it just slips in. There we go. And simple screw. Didn't go in properly. Just have to remember sometimes to back them off enough to allow room for them to swing around. And finally this back one. And one power supply, nice and neatly plumbed into the back. So the cable, I would imagine, can just run right down the inside across to the unit. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's go see what the instructions say. So, next piece here. This is already showing the cable from the head up here. Let's just get the view changed. So, what we have to do is get this now secured. So according to what I can see, there's actually skips right by it from what I can see. A little bit of a gap in the instructions, but never mind, we'll just get that done. So we need what looks like that little tall piece and a bunch of small screws. Let's just pull the label off of this. So this is going to have to mount on the rails, so we probably need a couple of T's and a couple of screws just to get it up there. So this, according to what I can see, is fairly close to the extruder. So again, stick the T-nuts onto the part and simply push it into place and screw it in. Turn the back on, just okay, just undo the wires. Should be we're mounting this on 2 screws. And 2 screws that way. And 2 screws that way. 2 screws up here and up here. Let's find out what screws I have or what I need. Little countersunk M3x10s. Interesting, because there are none of those. Oh, okay. Dealing with the cable chain here they are. Even though they show it already mounted earlier. So M4 8s. according to that. But oh, that's got big holes in it already. This one does not, but they probably just need pushing through. I'm going to screw them from the other side. That way any sharp pieces of screw is not rubbing against wires when the cable chain is moving. And the gantry is moving and everything else. Don't want to wear through the wires, do we? Okay, so let's get that mounted on here. Looks like it might actually need the slightly longer ones. Okay, I'm just going to put these 4 screws in and then I'll be right back. So now it wants the decorative strips, I'll leave those for now, and the feeding tube attaching. There's still cable chains down here that we haven't done yet, but we'll wait and see. So, feeding tube, that would be the Bowden tube. So that's going to feed from, let's get those wires out of the way, top of here. Let's push that home. And it's going to go over to the top of here. And push right down and home into the head. So there's that. Let's not cut it short or anything because it needs to come right to the front and right across to the side. So as you can see, that's getting quite tight there. So that's good. Might be able to twist it. I don't know if it would stay. Yeah, probably not. All right, that's the Bowden tube. So now it looks like it's now showing a cable chain attached to the bed, or from the bed, but it is not. Just looking forward a bit to see if it actually shows you. No, that's the end of it. So it doesn't show you how to connect that. And we've got 3 bits of plastic here. One looks like it's for micro switches. Yep, that one. So let's see if I can rotate this round a little bit for you to see what I'm trying to figure out here. So far I have not used any tools except what came with this. But down here, that should do. We still have the Bowden chain that comes with the heated bed, which rises up and down. So what is that supposed to hook onto? There's 2 screw holes there, which could be other side. So it's coming out on this side right next to the power supply. Right here. So it looks like it's going to attach to this thing. So that means the kit, which kind of would sort of make sense if there's enough room for the cables to get all the way back over there again, which looks like there is. Okay, finally figured out what the stupid problem was. This bracket here, the end of the cable chain, they had the final link on backwards. Didn't expect that. Such a simple thing. Now it's fixed. Now it fits the way it should be. Best way for aligning these two is to move the bed right to the top so it's almost touching the nozzle, and then adjust the bottom of the cable chain to be as high as it needs to be so that it has a nice clean curve at the top of the cable chain. So that's that. The other part that I did while I was at it, just because I couldn't resist, was just turn that around. I just added the micro switch, nothing big, right here for the limits for X and Y. There we go. So what happens is as the bed comes up, it will hit this micro switch right here. And as the gantry comes forward and backwards, it will hit this micro switch right here. Haven't wired them in yet. That's going to be a separate piece we're going to do now. So let me just go back to the laptop, check what's next. Okay, looks like we're on the last leg. Now we need to do the connecting wire is what this section's called. So we've got the ribbon cable for the display here. I've just tucked it behind the display. We've got the 5 motor cables. Red and black wire from the power supply was pre-wired. We've got all the cabling running from the hot end. And we've got the cabling running from the heated bed here as well. So what we have to do is now, following this, I think the first thing to do is probably to connect all these up to the various motors. Now it's probably easier to use the markers side at the PCB end and use the unmarked ends up on the motors themselves. So we'll get that done first, I think. No, we'll do what the instructions say. We'll do the LCD display first. So that's just literally plugging in these cables. 1, 2 to the board and 2 to the back of the display. Make sure we get them the right way around, of course. Okay, now based on the diagram, we'll hook up these various wires. So we've got Z, 2, Z motor A is the one on the controller side, so Z motor B is the one I would have thought would have been the longer cable. What's this one? Oh, that's the Y. Okay, so Z2 goes over here. The Z1 will be this motor here. Looking at this, I might have got the motors mounted the wrong way round, but should be fine. We have Y, which according to this is the one right over in the corner here by everything that's going on. It's just off camera, so it's the one over here. So we're just going to get in front of the camera and plug this one in. Okay. So we have E for extruder, which is also over here. Oh, plugging in the wrong end. Okay. And finally we have X, which would be over the other side. I think somehow that doesn't seem right because the Y one is much longer, and it's got less distance to go. So I think the Y and the X cables need to be switched, otherwise they won't reach. Now all I've got to do is run them down to the control board and plug them into the relevant spaces as indicated by this. So let me just get that done and I'll get back to you in a moment. So one thing I was curious about was how to easily identify the cables that are coming from the hot end, and that's the extra PDF and sheet that was included in the box. It shows us the coloring for the heat bed. We've got the 2 red wires for the main power and the black and white for the thermistor on the heat bed. On the extruder, we've got the heater on the 2 reds again, the extruder, so temperature. We then have the stop limit switch, which is the green and black. We've got the fan 1 and fan 2, which are the red and black, and blue and black is fan 2. So cool, we've got everything we need. So it will be E-temp, hot end, and not sure which fan is which, but I guess we'll just be, if it's got it wrong, we'll just switch them around. So let's get this wired into the controller. So one thing I'm going to do though is I've noticed a lot of these wires have just got bare ends on them. I'm going to crimp some ferrules on. Not essential, but it makes for a more reliable connection and less likely to short things out with having little furry bits of wire sticking out and shorting to other pieces. So I'm going to do that before I wire it all in. Okay, the wiring has now been completed, albeit roughly. The wires are actually laid out fairly neatly. I just haven't done the cable tying yet. So when I do tie them all down, either with tape or with cable ties, whatever, they will flow nice and neatly to the controller. I've arranged them all in a way that will not cause anything to be blocking the front from the heat flow and everything, which is what I wanted to make sure of. The only thing that remains pretty much is way over there, those limit switches, which are back there, right there, hidden, right there. Those limit switches, the cables are not very long, which means they're not reaching around to the control panel. They're actually pretty short cables, so I'm just going to double check in the book and see, because there's no way in heck they're going to get across there. So that means they really probably need to go on the other side, this side of the unit, not, you know, that far side. If they're over here, they can come down and get to the controller, but if they're over there, they won't. So I'm just going to check in the book and see what it said, because I may have accidentally put them on the wrong side, of course. So everything, I have them mounted right next to the X motor, and looking down here, there it is. So it really doesn't show me a good view. So that's the assembly that's making it up. Oh, it does have it near a pulley. My mistake. Okay, so it is me again. All right, minor thing, but easy to fix. So I actually need to mount it over the front, right above the controller and LCD. So let me just move that. Needs to go here, not over there. So I'm going to move it around and then it will fit. So let me just pause the camera, be back in a moment. So indeed, that was the problem. I've moved the limit switch now over to this side, and move the screw adjustment, and as you can see, fits nicely and easily reaches down to the controller, which is now right below it. So the next thing we want to do is power up the power supply without it being plugged in to the control board, so that we can see that we've got a proper 12 volts coming out of it. So I've just grabbed my multimeter here, and the power supply is plugged into the mains, but it's not turned on yet. As you can see here, I've got the 12 volt connection disconnected. So let me just power up the multimeter and power up the power supply. And now let's just check the volts coming out of the power supply. So 12.34 volts, that's off load of course, so it might be slightly high. So let's power that back off again, connect it up. And I feel good about powering up the printer for the first time. So let's get this in here. Oh, one thing I want to point out, as you can see here, the use of ferrules on the end here makes this so much nicer than trying to use like bare wires that you just push in there. There's no chance of having little stray strands of wire shorting out to other things or catching stuff and causing problems. It gives you a really nice reliable connection. So I don't regret having deviated from the kit very minorly by putting those ferrules on. Anyway, we're good to go now. We've connected everything up, so let's power this up. I'm going to just turn it around so we can see the actual display to see what it tells us. Okay, that's that turned around. Let's zoom out a little bit. Let's drop down so we can see what's going on. Okay, so we can see both sides of this right now. A little bit more on the display. So let's power this up and see what happens. Oh, got a fan blowing. Marlin. And there we go. So it looks like, to turn that a bit more around so you can see it better, looks like we're working very nicely. It's reading 20 degrees for the heated bed and for the hot end, which is correct. That's just basic room temperature. So let's see if we can make it move around. Let's just adjust the camera and see what happens with the X, Y, and Z. Okay, I've just positioned the head roughly in the middle of the gantry up here, and I've moved the build plate down a little bit. I've taken the actual build plate off of the heated bed just so we don't crash into it and make any dings. So let's see if we can move things around, and then we'll try an auto home if everything is working correctly. So we'll just press the button, go into the prepare. This is all standard Marlin stuff, so go down to move axes, and we'll move 1 millimeter because we've got a rotary dial here. So let's pick X first. This should allow us to move the head left and right. Well, that works just fine. Let's go and try the Y, same way. Don't know if you can see that there, but it's quite happily moving forwards and backwards. Let's go and try the Z, or Z for you and over there in Europe. And there we have the bed moving up and down. Nice. A little bit slow right now. We've probably got the speeds quite slow. But that's working very nice. I just set it to 0. That should go up a reasonable way for where I powered it on. I haven't done a home yet. Alright, so let's try and do a home. See if I can bring you a little bit closer, just so we might be able to see the head moving better. I know you're looking at it straight on, but that should be okay. So let's go back in, do prepare, auto home. So everything's working correct. This should be good. Go. So it's just, good. That one's done. Micro switch over there. That one's done. Now the head's coming up. I adjusted this with plenty of clearance right now because I don't want to be hitting anything. Now, of course, that one is actually cleared off the end of the bed, which is probably okay, but just an observation. There's probably a setting to set an offset on the table from the 0 to where the bed starts. So let's grab a memory stick, micro SD card, plug it in. The one that came with it has got some examples. Right now it's getting a little bit late, so I'm not going to start a print today, and I'll just make that another video anyway. Anyway, we will continue with trying to do some printing tomorrow. For now, this will wrap up the build video, and tomorrow we'll get into having fun. The only thing I've got left to do, which I'll do now, is just tidy up this rat's nest of a wiring. Okay, see you in the next video where we test this puppy out.